Printfix Friday, episode 19, where we did decide to go through with the rebrand. Resin is continuing to be toxic and will leave you chemical burns, frying motherboards, support trouble, under extrusion. Oh my! Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to PrintFix Friday. If you are new here, make sure you leave a like and get subscribed. We'd love your support. We recently rebranded PrintFail Friday to PrintFix Friday because we're here to fix your fails and not make fun of them all that much, all the time. But we're going to start with a fail all about motherboards. Motherboards are a little bit more fragile than you may think. So got to be careful about that one. We're going to talk all about it. Then we're going to move into a telescoping katana blade that does not work. We're going to talk about why that can occur and how you can avoid it if you're dealing with some issues like that. Then we talk about a fail of our own. The Hitman bust comes in. We talk about why that occurred and what happened on that reprint. We then move into a support material print where it just won't come off. That's a real big problem, something that a lot of people struggle with, and why tree supports are so popular. We're going to talk about those too, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that one. We then go into a more trigger warning one where we show a chemical burn from resin 3D printing because it is quite dangerous, and yeah, that one you can skip, of course, if you want to, and all the time stamps will be right next to me as well, so you can skip around as needed. But yeah, be careful about that one if you're a little bit squeamish, because you're gonna see the whole dang burn. And last but not least, we have a fan submission of a bad Bowden tube from a 3D printer and things to look out for if your Bowden tube might be going bad. But enough of me yabbering along. Let's get back to me yabbering along all about those fails. Let's get into it. First up, we've got one that is more of a PSA than anything else. PSA, you can accidentally fry your motherboard. Yes, you can. It's actually pretty easy to do it. You got to be very, very cautious about it. For Ender 3 Pro owners, last night I was upgrading my hot end. When I was reconnecting the wiring was old and was from when I got the printer. There was a large spark out of nowhere. Doubt. Turning on the printer, the nozzle read as 300C when cold. Looked it up, turns out you can fry your motherboard when changing the hot end, so now I have to do that. But hey, while I'm here, is there really any benefit to upgrading the motherboard, and is it worth it? Whenever you are working on any electronic device and you are inside poking and prodding and doing wiring, you must have it unplugged. Turn off the power and unplug it. Now, technically turning off the power should be fine, but also unplug it. There's no reason not to. You do want to look at making sure that it is grounded, so if you can verify that that power switch is enough and it still leaves the ground open, then okay, fine, leave it. But otherwise, unplug it. You can easily fry a motherboard, especially if you really don't know what you're doing. Chances are they bridged the connection of their heater. I've seen this happen before, where it will, if your motherboard has fuses, it'll just pop the fuse basically instantly. Not that I've ever done that one before. Or it'll fry the motherboard if it is a cheaper board. So be careful about that one. Is there a benefit to upgrading a motherboard? I mean, for the price of an SKR Mini, they're like 40 bucks or something like that. There's really no reason not to. We've got what I think is a pretty good response. On most motherboards, there's no overvoltage protection on the thermistor inputs, which is why the analog to digital converter, ADC, on the microcontroller was fried when it presumably got a jolt of the heater current. The BTT SKR2, and not the SKR 1.4 V2, has overvoltage protection on its thermistor inputs, as well as other improvements. This can happen. Now, the main reason why it occurred is kind of irrelevant here. We don't care about why it occurred. At least now, right? The damage is done. We got to look at upgrading. I would think the SKR2 is a pretty decent option. We'll have links to some motherboards down below, some on Amazon, some through BTT, which is Big Tree Tech, because they do offer some of the newer SKR stuff. But you gotta take precautions in place, right? For me, I unplug the printer, I turn on the power switch so I can bleed off any residual power that might be left in capacitors or anything like that. Go ahead and turn it back off and then do my work. Now, you got to make sure you put things back in the right places as well. Theoretically, a thermistor in a heater port is not going to hurt it, and a heater in a thermistor port is also not going to hurt it. But if you bridge any of those for whatever reason, you can cause damage, particularly the heater bridging across the heater, because then you're just short-circuiting it when it's not expecting a short circuit. And that can cause that over voltage to go into the board and start frying things. It is a bummer. It might have blown the thermistor side. Who knows? It's kind of irrelevant at this point. That board is fried. But again, new boards are like 40, 50 bucks. Kind of is what it is. And now you get to play around with newer tech. So, I don't know if I would call it a fail as more as a happy accident. Nah, it's just an accident. Anybody know how to fix this? The blade's fused. So this is one of those katanas that are print in place. So they're like the old school lightsabers where you can push them and they stay closed, and then you kind of flick it and it pops out. That's what this is. You have to deal with over extrusion. If it is sticking, you've got some over extrusion issues, and you can likely dial your extrusion back a bit. You can also cheat by doing some horizontal size compensation, and basically adding a negative size comp should enable them to come apart from each other, because each of them will be a bit thinner from the one next to it. But of course, that's going to modify how strong it is. So I would first look at adjusting my overall flow. We can see that, and this is a blurry photo, so, you know, there's that. But I think the first layer looks a little too close, which could actually be the only area that it's fused. You might just need to run a hobby knife through it, but don't be like me. I had to reset the clock yesterday. Got a little cut from stabbing myself with an X-Acto knife. You know how it goes. But yeah, I would start with tuning your extrusion multiplier. Then I would look at doing some sort of horizontal size compensation. Knowing some other settings would be useful too. Extrusion multiplier, which you can do via the formula. We'll have it up on the screen here so you guys can see it. And we talked about this on our Ender 3 Pro upgrade video. We'll card to that video as well so you can go take a look, where you just have it extrude 100 millimeters. You measure if it extruded 100 millimeters. If it didn't, modify from there. There is a formula. I don't particularly use it. I do it the old school way, but just use the formula. It's easier. And then, yeah, it should work. This is a tough print to begin with. Any amount of stringing during retraction, blobs during retraction, stringing during movement, all of that is going to cause these pieces to get stuck together. So you got to be very, very careful when you're building one of these, because it is incredibly easy to have them weld together. It is a fun print, and it's a really awesome way to show some of the cool tech inside of 3D printing, but this is definitely a torture test. So if you don't have your printer properly tuned, you're gonna have a bad time. Next up, we have a fail here. This was the Hitman bust that we were working on for yesterday's time lapse. We'll have that on the screen as we're talking about it. It decided to start under extruding, and unfortunately, it was under extruding for a fair bit of the print. Take a listen. Sounds like a freaking maraca. I thought it was a temperature issue, so all right, fine. This print ran overnight, so when I came to check on it, I'm like, huh, that's not right. Looks like a piece of modern art, and I mean, I guess it'll hold small pens and toothpicks and stuff. Will it hold a pair of Prusa pliers? Sure, whatever. You know, modern art, if you will, with the gyroid infill. So I said, all right, let me run it again. And while it did work, we had some problems. Let's take a look at this. If you look on the shoulder there, as well as on the back side of the head, you'll see some heavy points for retraction, as well as some clear under extrusion. Take a look at the collar there. You'll see some under extrusion. we were dealing with a partial nozzle clog, and I thought the printer was just overheating, so I kept changing the temperature, kept adjusting this and that. It didn't work. So when I was doing the base, I said, all right, let me just do a cold pull real quick. And I actually was able to pull out some gunk. Unfortunately, the cat has ran off with that piece, so I don't have it anymore. I'll find it eventually, and if I do find it, we'll put a photo up, but chances are it's returned to Mother Earth Gaia from whence it came. But the cold pull completely fixed it, and you can actually see where we did the cold pull. I don't know if that's gonna focus. Thank you. You see that little black dot? That is remnant of the cold pull. It's a little bit of the gunk that was left in the hot end. We were running at like 220C up to that point. I paused the printer, I did a filament change, I cooled it down, and then we did a cold pull as it was effectively printing. So I went to pause, changed my temp, did the cold pull myself, and it worked okay. But you'll see in the time lapse of the base piece that there were some wispy lines, and that's because I had the temperature turned up so high to overcome that clog that we were stringing. So there you go, some behind the scenes stuff. This came out fine for us to use in a video, but like ultimately if this was a client part, we would not be sending this, we'd be reprinting it. But our lead editor, Andrew, loves Hitman, is really excited to see the new update for it, so he's gonna get this part as he wants to print it.
Sorry, I'm a little busy. Wow!
You can also see on the back of the suit where we had some under extrusion as well. This was all due to a nozzle clog, because this piece, the back of it is absolutely gorgeous. Not blaming the filament, this is definitely a me thing. Probably a piece of dust or something got in it. Is kind of the issue when you run open air filament like we do. We don't have it all in bags. There's over 90 kilos of filament behind me. That's a lot of bags and a lot of time that I just don't want to go through. And realistically, it doesn't uptake a bunch of water. All the exotic materials do, and those are sealed inside of vacuum bags. Having a really tough time removing supports. Is this normal? No, it's not. You don't have the right support settings. One of the big things that you can look for is to adjust that distance from the edge of the print to your support material. Different slicers call it different things, but it's normally there's a distance that you set from the end of the support to the top of the part. In Prusa, it's a stock of 0.2 millimeters, which if you're running 0.2 millimeter layers is totally fine. This though it appears to be Cura, or they're not using snug supports in Prusa Slicer 2.4. The first thing that I say, go use Prusa Slicer 2.4. Snug supports will stop a lot of these problems. But this all has to do with your separation. We see a couple of other issues here. We have a lot of Z-banding. A lot of Z-banding. This is either from some sort of loose belt, loose wheel, something going wrong there, or the actual Z rods themselves, the lead screws or the smooth rods, if it has them, are bent, torqued, tweaked, whatever, that are causing this issue. You can also set a separation percentage. Now, this is done for X and Y. If you're getting it where it's fusing to the model, add maybe 10% to that. Give it a little bit more distance. We like to use at least 70%, but we're also confident in the cooling abilities of the Prusa Mark III's and the Minis and all the other printers that we have here, and that we're not going to see too many issues if we do give it a little bit further gap. Cooling can also be a factor here. If you're not cooling adequately, your supports are going to be fine, but the part that it's supporting is not going to cool fast enough and it's going to weld itself to the support. But it looks like we're dealing more with the support welding to the body of the part rather than the support welding to the underneath. This sucks and it's never a lot of fun. Understanding where you need to support is also really important, and it's why I like the paint on support feature inside of Prusa Slicer. If we take a look here at the Hitman bust, we can see that he definitely needs some support on the chin. I did that myself, but we're going to remove the selection for the feature of the video. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at highlighting our overhangs, maybe, 25, 26%. I don't care about this. This is where the pin goes for the base, so that's no big deal if it doesn't look all the best. But there is no way that this area here is going to work. Now, the little bit of area on the ear, I'm going to send it. It's not worth trying to have a little bit of support there. You might have one little piece of filament you got to cut off, or one little line that you got to cut off, but it's totally fine. But using paint on supports, all you got to do is just come in here and just paint your boy up. Now, I'm using a much larger brush than standard because, again, we're about speed here. And for me, I'm going to go out just a little bit more. A little bit of extra support will be fine. Under the nose there, it should not be an issue. I don't think I would end up supporting that. Then we go ahead and slice it. And as you can see, we are now running snug supports. And so there you go. It's basically supporting the entire underside. So we can see the outcome ends up looking like this, where you've got the support material. That's what the underside layers look like underneath the chin, and there's really no way to avoid that. That's just part of the way that these things work. But ultimately, snug supports to me make a lot of difference, and understanding your cooling potential of your printer is incredibly valuable as well. In a case like this, I would look at utilizing snug supports or tree supports in Cura. By the way, video coming soon about that, so make sure you get subscribed. We're going to do tree supports versus the world. I was incredibly excited for snug supports, but everybody else wanted to see tree, so we're going to do ones with tree supports too. But you know what else everybody likes? My segue to our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. If you want to get your ideas out of your head and into your hands with full art-to-part rapid prototyping and product development, you can reach out to us, 3D Musketeers. We know that print failures are part of the game, and we understand that they're a pain in the ass, they waste time, and nobody likes dealing with them. Well, we'll deal with them for you. And now 3D Musketeers is offering high-end 3D scanning with an Artec Ray and an Artec Eva. So if you are looking for accuracy of sub 100 microns or 0.1 millimeters, sub 5,000ths of an inch, give us a call. We can scan just about anything. The Ray is capable of scanning 110 meters away. It's an amazing scanner. Stay tuned and get subscribed if you want to see the unboxing of those scanners, because it is really awesome, and I'm excited to show them to you guys and do some videos on it as well. It was a very expensive purchase right at the end of 2021. And if you want to support this channel directly, you can do so at Patreon. Patreon.com/3D Musketeers, where we have tiers starting as low as $1, which does help this channel grow and move forward. We'll have links to all of that and more down in the description, so go check that out. And while you're down there, leave a like and smash that subscribe button, because I think that's what I'm supposed to say as a content creator. Anyways, let's get back to it. We've got a fail from one of our own. This is from Justin. This was taken at about 5 a.m. We can see his Prusa bed has moved. The entire part has failed. Stay tuned, because next week we're going to dive into this one a little bit deeper so we can figure out what's going on. Trigger warning. What I am about to show you is a chemical burn, because resin is toxic. If you don't want to see it, skip here, and then you don't have to see it. But remember, resin is toxic. Hey guys, I know this reminder goes out to new printer guys often, but make sure to be washing your hands even when wearing gloves. I was working on the printers in the middle of the night last night, wore gloves, thought I was fine after taking them off, and apparently had some leftover resin on my thumb. I generally wash my hands after taking gloves off, but I was tired and figured it was no big deal. The reason I'm sharing this is because lack of concern can lead to burns like this anywhere on the body. They take hours to set in and form, and if you get something like this in your eyes, you'll probably be blind for the rest of your life. Citation needed. You might be, but chances are you won't be. It's a safety concern, but this is a reminder that exposure can happen even when being careful, so additional washing and safety is always a good step. Let me be clear here. This fucking sucks. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Resin is toxic. People don't listen. We had people talking all about aerosolizing resin. We'll card to that video so you can go watch that, because good lord was that video just... I wanted to rage. I had to film that video like 4 times just to be somewhat calm so that we could, you know, adequately talk about everything. This is no joke. When I tell you guys this shit's dangerous, I'm not lying. I'm not lying to you, okay? This is not all that long exposure, and you can see they were concerned that it was going to get bigger. I don't know if that was a bandage, but it looks like they drew with a pen around where the damage was. This is a common thing that you do when you get something like cellulitis to see if it's growing or if it's shrinking. You outline it with a pen, and if it gets worse, it's probably time to go to the doctor. This will heal, but this individual will likely have a scar for the rest of their life, and a painful reminder that resin is toxic. It is nice to see that Elegoo is in the comments. I think that's good that they're clearly watching the Facebook stuff, so I do like this. I'm not going to comment on it. I think that there's been enough people in the comments, over 290 of them at this point. This person has learned a very, very painful lesson. Chemical burns are no joke. This might not ever heal to be good again, if you will. And this is just kind of gross. But yeah, guys, this is no joke. Don't f with resin. Seriously. Wear gloves. We did a whole video on resin safety. We've done a few videos on resin safety, but we'll card to the most recent one, which was the Gifts for Geeks and Makers, where I showed off some of the PPE that we use, because guess what? PPE is cheap. You know what's not cheap? Doctor bills, at least in the United States. I was going to say almost jealous. I'm incredibly jealous of those that have affordable healthcare, because healthcare is very expensive here in the States, but that's a talk for another day. Next up, we have a fan submission from one of our good friends. I don't want to name them directly, but they do feel like I call them out often in these PrintFixFriday videos. I'm not sure if that says something about us or them. We've got prints that look pretty darn good on the first layer, but layer 2, they look like crap. What the hell's going on? They tried changing nozzles, extruder gears, extruders, everything that they could think of. But you know what it ended up being? PTFE tubing. One of the big things to remember here is that if your printer does not have an all-metal hot end, which this one doesn't, that PTFE Bowden tube, even if it is Capricorn, although this doesn't appear to be real Capricorn, but it's Capricorn-esque, that is... It is a wear item. And so it's something that you need to often change. And if you're getting perfectly fine prints first layer, which, let me remind you that layer 1 is really, really slow, so you shouldn't have too many issues with it. But when you get to your layer 2 and you're speeding up a bit, if it looks like crap, check your Bowden tube. Now, their connectors were on really tight, like actually caused damage to the tubing. Is that an issue? I don't think so. But if you're running constantly, if you're printing all the time, you're going to wear through that stuff very, very quickly. So do make sure that if you are printing often, that you keep spare Bowden tube around and you change it often. I'd rather you change out your Bowden tube once every 3 or 4 kilos when you don't need to, than wait till it causes you problems and you end up thinking, do I have a clogged nozzle? Is my extruder motor bad? Is this, that, and the other thing potentially problems? Because again, you could be chasing an absolute dragon of a problem, not knowing what the right solution is. And that's the idea of PrintFixFriday, right? We look at the fails, we take a look at them, and we try to work with the person that had the failure to see if we can come up with a solution before we film the video. It's useful. The nice thing is here, I've been working with this person for a while, right? We've seen extruder gear issues, we've seen some other issues, maybe there's some ZN stop things, parts that are weak. So there have been lots of different things that we've worked on, and I'm glad that they went through this process to figure it out themselves. Because ultimately, while we can help, it is very rewarding to go through and figure it out yourself after they've, had some time to learn. Hopefully these videos help you guys out. I enjoy making them, and the rebrand was something that is really necessary. I hope PrintFixFriday works out better, but if you've got a better idea, let me know, because Fix Your Shit Friday is probably not the best title for a YouTube series, but that is probably more realistic of what it needs to be. Am I right? Anyways, that's all I got for you today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Cat. Oh, okay, Cat. You out of here? What are you doing? I need decisions. I need decisions. What are we doing? Are you going to be a pain in my butt, or are you going to actually, you know, do something? Okay, you're going to leave. Hey, thanks so much for watching this new rebranded PrintFixFriday episode 19. And a massive thank you goes out to all of our patrons whose names are listed right next to me. Thank you all for what you do in making these videos possible. And again, if you want to join our Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/3D Musketeers, where tiers start as low as $1. Right below me is going to be the entire PrintFix Friday series, where you guys can take a look at print fails and how we fix them. Of course, videos prior to this will all say Print Fail Friday, but you get the idea. And right next to that is going to be our Prusa maintenance series. I know most of the printers that we've seen here in this video are not Prusas, but watching those maintenance videos are really important, and we're going to be doing more on very, very specific topics. So make sure you guys get subscribed and leave a like. I will see you all down in those comments, and in the next one, take care.